VCY America presents Crosstalk, a nationwide call-in program discussing issues that have an effect on our families, our communities, our churches, our nation, and our world. Crosstalk, an opportunity for you to voice your concerns for biblical principles. And now live by satellite and around the world on the internet at vcyamerica.org. Here is today's Crosstalk.
We do thank you for joining us on Crosstalk. Ladies and gentlemen, recently, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, released a declassified file that she indicates contains overwhelming evidence that former President Obama and the national security team he assembled manufactured and politicized intelligence. This was dealing with the Trump presidency, first not only going into the primary, but then also afterwards, following the win. In a recent press conference, Tulsi Gabbard revealed that she had submitted a criminal referral to the Department of Justice, and as such, the Justice Department has now formed a strike force to assess the evidence. So what's going on, and why does it matter these many years later? Joining us today, we welcome back Robert Knight. Bob is a former Los Angeles Times news editor and columnist for the Washington Times, as well as other publications. He had senior positions in a number of pro-family organizations. He's also an author, written several books, The Coming Communist Wave, What Happens If the Left Captures All Three Branches of Government, Liberty on the Brink, Crooked, What Really Happened in the 2020 Election, and How to Stop the Fraud, and The Battle for America's Soul. Bob, thanks for joining us here today on Crosstalk.
Oh, it's always good to be on with you, Jim.
So increasingly, we're hearing the term now Russiagate. Take us back to 2016, to the genesis of this matter that accused then candidate Donald Trump of colluding with Russia in an effort to influence the 2016 presidential election. Take us back to the time, if you would.
Well, you know, people make fun of the idea of conspiracies, but this has every bit of evidence that it really was a conspiracy. The FBI and the other intelligence agencies actually assessed the idea that the Russians were colluding with the Trump campaign for Trump to win the election in 2016. But they came to the conclusion there was low intelligence, in other words, low value, so it probably wasn't true. But then they came out and released a report saying it had high value. In other words, we think this really happened. And then they leaked it to the press, and then the press went crazy and accused Trump of colluding with the Russians. And this went on with hearings. It was all designed to cripple the Trump presidency because he did win in 2016. Mm-hmm. And it turns out that Hillary Clinton's campaign had paid for the Steele Dossier that kicked off the whole thing. And so it was a classic deterrence where they said, look in this direction, not the other. And it was projection also, where they were projecting onto Trump what they themselves were doing.
Mm-hmm. You know, go ahead.
Well, the thing is, Tulsi Gabbard is the Director of National Intelligence, and she has released classified information that, well, it's been declassified, mm-hmm. and it nails it, and there's no getting around it, that they lied to the American people, and that it was from the top down. It was directed by President Obama. And although Tulsi Gabbard calls this treasonous, and, you know, I think in the larger sense it probably is, because it was an attempt to interfere with the election mm-hmm. of the next president. They probably will not bring charges against Barack Obama because treason is a very specific thing. It's in the Constitution, mm-hmm. but in the federal statute that deals with it, it applies only to someone who levies war against the country or adheres to its enemies, giving them aid and comfort within the United States or elsewhere. That's a pretty high bar to cross. Yeah. I think another reason Barack Obama won't be charged is because it would be politically explosive. Half the country still loves Obama. I think it would tear the country apart. And I think even if they had him dead to rights, they wouldn't go ahead with it. This is one reason Richard Nixon didn't contest the vote in Chicago in 1960. when I think the Democrats clearly stole that election. They had dead people voting by the thousands. But Nixon felt it would tear the country apart to question John F. Kennedy's victory.
You know, according to Tulsi Gabbard, again, she's the director of National Intelligence, that it does, as you mentioned here, Bob, she says it goes right to the top of the Obama administration, and including the president himself. Here's what she had to say at the recent press conference.
This new information implicates former President Obama in criminal behavior.
We have referred and will continue to refer all of these documents to the Department of Justice and the FBI to investigate the criminal implications of this.
For even former President Obama?
Correct. The evidence that we have found and that we have released directly point to President Obama leading the manufacturing of this intelligence assessment. There are multiple pieces of evidence and intelligence that confirm that fact.
And so we have that being said, and so we have President Trump now calling. He himself used the word treason. He also, said this was an attempt to steal the 2016 election. But what you're saying is, due to the fine definition of treason, it probably does not rise to that level. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I do. I don't think they can, in a court of law, bring it off. At least against the former president of the United States. Mm-hmm. However, if they can prove that James Clapper, the director of National Intelligence, or CIA Director John Brennan, or FBI Director James Comey, or former National Security Advisor Susan Rice committed perjury when congressional testimony, now they've got something really solid.
And would that be against them as individuals, or what?
Well, yes, it would. There are other statutes that might apply here. There's a sedition statute, and that applies to two or more persons who conspire to overthrow, put down, or to destroy by force the government of the United States, or to oppose by force the authority thereof, or by force to prevent, hinder, or delay the execution of any law of the United States. Sounds like this is what they were doing, but the key word is by force. Okay, what they did was they fooled people with misinformation, and you'd think that'd be bad enough, but the law is very tricky, and it's very specific. That's why there are very few charges of treason brought against people these days, because you have to prove that they conspired with foreign powers, really, to overthrow the government. And that's a pretty high bar.
Yeah. Now, as this was unfolding, there was an inquiry going on regarding Hillary Clinton and email. So what was that issue with Hillary, and was this collusion allegation created to draw attention away from Hillary and the emails to pin something on Donald Trump?
Yeah, I think all of the above. I think they manufactured this scandal to hurt Donald Trump, but also to protect Hillary Clinton. She clearly had her servers destroyed. She had cell phones smashed. She destroyed evidence that the FBI said it was seeking. That's a federal crime. I mean, she could be charged. But again, I don't think she will be, because she's a former First Lady of the United States. The Clintons have been a fixture in the public mind for several decades. It's just, it's the kind of thing where you wonder, gee, will anybody ever pay for these crimes against America? Because they were crimes against the people, because they distorted our electoral system, and they abused federal power against their political opponents. And you saw that with the Biden administration, because the Russian collusion hoax really just was the beginning of it, and that started in 2016, but it was carried right on through.
Right.
Through the Trump administration, they tried to bring it down using this with 2 impeachments. They kept it up under Biden, and a lot of Americans, including me, are asking, is anyone ever going to be charged with anything? We keep seeing things exposed, but we don't see anybody being let off in handcuffs, even though it may be richly deserved. I'm hoping that will eventually happen. I would like to see some of these people charged. with perjury or other crimes.
And I think that's something Gabbard has said, too. She said that there must be indictments no matter how powerful they were at that time, saying the evidence is overwhelming. Something is going on here, and she has turned it over to the Justice Department at this point.
Yeah, there could be some very interesting indictments of the lesser officials of the Biden administration and the Obama administration for having lied repeatedly and manufactured false evidence that led to the persecution of a presidential candidate and then a president.
Let me underscore that, Bob, because you use that term several times, and that's a very word, the very term Tulsi Gabbard used, manufactured intelligence. And just to point out that the evidence truly showed there was no collusion. There was no connection between Donald Trump and Russia and trying to influence the election to keep Hillary from getting in there. So that term manufactured intelligence, it was actually created to give that look as if something was going on.
Yeah, and they used that playbook a couple times. You have to understand the Russians did try to interfere in the 2016 election. They bought, I don't know, $100,000 or $200,000 worth of social media advertising, and that was about it. That's not going to swing an election. This was minor. But there is evidence emerging that they really were hoping that Hillary Clinton would win the election because they knew Trump was an opponent, that he didn't approve of Russia and was critical of it, and that the Clintons were up to their ears in deals with Russians for their Clinton Foundation. So I think there's just so much here. You just wonder whether it will all explode someday and whether people will face charges.
Right. And again, it does not appear that Hillary Clinton has clean hands in any of this, but understand that there are documents that show her campaign aides colluded with the Obama White House at the time, colluded with the NSC, the State Department, and the intelligence community in that attempt to dig up dirt to try and attempt to tie Donald Trump to Putin.
Yeah, they actually created the dirt. They paid for the Steele Dossier, which contained lascivious accusations against Trump. And the Democratic National Committee paid the law firm, or Fusion GPS, which actually created it. And it's been since debunked as a fraud. And yet, they pushed this Russian collusion business using that as the key element for several years. The New York Times and the Washington Post both won Pulitzer Prizes for pushing this narrative uncritically, and they still have those Pulitzer Prizes. I think they ought to return them at this point.
They ought to be rescinded. Friends, you're listening to Crosstalk on VCY America. Robert Knight is with us today, and we are discussing Russiagate, and certainly there is more that has, there's a lot that's come out so far, but this has been turned over to the Justice Department. We understand a strike force is a term utilized to assess the evidence. We'll have some more discussion on this after the break. You're listening to Crosstalk on the VCY America Network.
Back to Genesis with Dr. John Morris, Creation Seminar speaker at the Institute for Creation Research. Dr. Morris, any evidence for creation from the solar system?
Yes, there are, Chris. In fact, quite a few. One of the ICR physicists, Dr. Russ Humphreys, made a prediction a few years ago before the exploration of Jupiter by satellite. He had developed a theory of the magnetic field of planets in the solar system based on the Bible. And the satellite found the evidence fit his model and not the evolutionary model of long ages. In particular, Europa, one of the moons of Jupiter, has an Earth-like magnetic field, but it's tilted 80 degrees away from the spin axis. This pretty much proves that the magnetic field is not produced by fluid currents in the moon's interior, as is postulated by long-agers for Earth. As a matter of fact, the Earth's dipole magnetic field is decaying so fast, soon it's going to be gone. It couldn't be the result of events millions of years ago, and that's the Back to Genesis truth.
Thanks for tuning in to Back to Genesis.
You're listening to Crosstalk on VCY America, and friends, the light of day is shining on the falsification of reports, the manufactured intelligence that was created in the carried over by Biden, of course, but the Obama administration and very high-level individuals involved with it. Robert Knight with us, and Bob, the former director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, interviewed on CNN, and he was asked some pretty pointed questions on this. Let's listen into that interview.
Director says that she's referred these filings to the Justice Department for criminal investigation. Tonight, we're told they formed what is called a strike force. Do you have concerns that they will attempt to prosecute you?
Well, certainly I do. After 8.5 years of this, and I don't know of an intelligence product that was more scrutinized, more investigated than that product was by numerous people. It's very disconcerting. It really is. And I take seriously when the President of the United States accuses me of being a participant in a treasonous conspiracy, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, what's your reaction to that?
It's ridiculous. It is untrue.
So what will you do if they come after you? What is your plan?
Well, I'll lawyer up, I suppose. Already have.
You've already hired attorneys in anticipation that this Trump Justice Department could try to prosecute you.
We've had sort of perpetual attorneys since I left the government in 2017.
Very interesting comments here, Bob. Lawyering up.
Well, I think he better lawyer up, because I think he was up to his ears in this, and there's no question he was. He was also part of the fraud in 2020 surrounding the Hunter Biden laptop computer that contained all sorts of evidence against Vice President Joe Biden, who was colluding with Hunter, his son, with Chinese contracts. I mean, there's an incredible amount of very damaging material on that laptop. And James Clapper and John Brennan, the head of the CIA at the time, issued a letter with 49 other national security experts saying that the laptop smacked of Russian information campaign. In other words, they were blaming the Russians when the FBI had the computer for a year and knew full well it belonged to Hunter Biden and was genuine. So these guys issued a document that lied to the American people, knowing it would have affected the election, because this came out in October, just before the November election in 2020. So I hope they lawyer up, because they really have a lot to answer for.
Yeah, and Bob, people are saying, "Oh, that's just a conspiracy. That's just a conspiracy." But I heard somebody not long ago say, "Hey, I need some new conspiracies because all of my other ones have come true."
Well, that's the thing. A conspiracy is defined as two people or more planning something that you don't happen to like. Instead of a plan or something else, it's a conspiracy. They've used that argument for years, and I'm going to do a forthcoming column on the misuse of the term conspiracy, because do you remember when they were ferreting out communists in Hollywood? In fact, Ronald Reagan helped do that back in the 1940s. And it turns out there were considerable numbers of communists in Hollywood trying to turn it into a propaganda mill. And they were outed, they were exposed, and yet they mocked that effort as, "Oh, you're finding a commie under every rock. It's a communist conspiracy, ho, ho, ho." It's a way to mischaracterize any inquiry and to cast aspersion on the character of anybody asking questions.
Yeah. Evidently, there's no shortage of whistleblowers either. And Tulsi Gabbard, and there are those who just really respect the rule of law, even within these agencies. And Tulsi Gabbard said, "We have whistleblowers coming out of the woodwork." And they really have been key as far as putting pieces of this puzzle together here.
Yeah, and there were some whistleblowers that came forward during the during the Biden administration. They testified before Congress, and then the security agencies, in this case I think it was the FBI, punished them and went after them. for telling the truth. They did everything they could to suppress the truth about the collusion and the part that the intelligence agencies of the United States played in forwarding the fortunes of one political party over another.
Obama's office, former President Obama, his office has responded saying these claims are outrageous. They called them bizarre allegations, ridiculous, a weak attempt at distraction. Interesting terminology they're using.
Yeah. Well, what would you do if you were caught dead to rights with something that looks so bad to the American people? You would go after the people making the accusations, however well grounded they are, and one thing that Democrats are doing now, they're making so much out of this Epstein business. Mm-hmm. You know, the convicted sex trafficker who ended up dead in his jail cell in 2019 in Manhattan. And I think this is just a big distraction. They're trying to keep the spotlight off what's being uncovered, which is the far bigger scandal of the top intelligence officials and maybe even the former president of the United States committing what I would call treason. Maybe not provable in court, but if it quacks like a duck and looks like a duck, mm-hmm. I think it's treason.
A betrayal of the nation.
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Because we consider it a sacred honor that we have free elections in this country. This Republic of America was a gift from God, established mostly by Christians who believed that you had to have limited government because man's nature is evil, and so nobody should get too much power. I mean, it was a unique way to look at the formation of government, and it's withstood 240 years of challenges. Up until now, we've not seen this kind of betrayal, I don't believe, of our federal system that we've seen since 2015. This started going after Donald Trump in 2015, actually. That's when it began.
Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna of Florida this past Sunday said this. She said, and what I can tell you is if we don't stop this, if we don't actually say this will not be tolerated, this is not a Democrat or Republican thing. This is about the health and the sanctity of our constitutional republic, and so there needs to be arrest. And I'd like you to comment on this and tell us, why does all this matter? I mean, we've had a number of years that have gone by, a couple of presidential elections now. Why? Your comments and why this all matters.
It matters because if people don't pay a price for treasonous behavior, we'll see a lot more of it. And we'll also see politically motivated prosecutions like we did with President Trump. They were trumped-up charges, mm-hmm. Trying to apply the Ku Klux Klan Act against President Trump just because he questioned the propriety of the 2020 election. That's really what it came down to. And this misuse of the law can't continue. In a free and open society, you can't might makes right. You have to believe in the law. You have to believe in the institutions that uphold the law. And if you don't, you end up being in a kleptocracy and a tyrannical situation where whoever gets the levers of power can abuse them. And that's a scary prospect in an otherwise free country.
Does the House and Senate have a role in this, or is this all up to the Justice Department?
House and Senate's biggest role is to expose the conspiracies that have taken place. They did that with COVID-19, and I think there should be some prosecutions. The way the American people were misled with the lockdowns and mandates and the efficacy of other treatments and so forth. That's a whole other issue, but it shows what I think was a massive abuse of federal power under the Biden administration. But we see that here as well. They can also update the law with the IRS recently announcing it wasn't going to enforce the Johnson Amendment anymore against mm-hmm. pastors speaking out in the pulpit politically. That's okay, but you can't have selective enforcement of the law. So Congress needs to act and get rid of the Johnson Amendment, take it off the books, because the next time a Democrat is elected president, they'll probably go right back to going after conservative pastors, but not liberal pastors. Actually, they didn't go after any. There was more of a perception that they would, because the Johnson Amendment is so unconstitutional, the IRS never wanted to defend it in court. But it was enough to silence a lot of pastors. But the liberal pastors felt, they'll never go after us, so we're going to have candidates right there in the pulpit. We're going to endorse the Democratic Party.
And they did.
They'll do whatever we want.
And they did, yeah.
Yeah. And they did, yeah.
So again, looking at and the allegations are that this goes all the way up to the top to President Barack Obama, and I know that they have examined much already. Would he not just be able to declare presidential immunity?
Yeah, I think he could, because President Trump just got that free pass in a recent Supreme Court case, and of course it applies to all presidents. So, yeah, I think I don't think Barack Obama has any fear of being prosecuted himself, but certainly his top aides at the intelligence agencies and the Justice Department, I believe, should be shaking in their boots right now.
Yeah.
There's a federal statute of limitations. It's usually 5 years. And some of these events took place in 2016 and 2017, which is more than 5 years ago. But there are exceptions. There's no statute of limitations on treason, espionage, or capital crimes such as murder. The thing is that you can't apply any of those here in these instances. But you can apply in fairly recent testimony. You can go after perjury before Congress. And I think we clearly see that occurred in several cases.
And again, the memo, the declassified information from Tulsi Gabbard, I mean, there's a key phrase that's used in the document that says, per the president's request. And that really pulls together, implicates him directly with this, that we're doing this at the request of the president.
Yeah, I think there's no question. When the IRS was targeting Tea Parties back in 2010 and other conservative groups, there was evidence that they were being directed directly by the White House under Barack Obama, because I think it was which group? One of the better conservative legal groups filed Freedom of Information Act requests and got the White House logs and found that the head of the IRS at the time had made many, many visits to the White House, which is very unusual. And in the wake of those visits, all of a sudden, the IRS started picking on Tea Parties and going after them. And Lois Lerner had to take the Fifth Amendment. She was in charge of nonprofits at the IRS. And the thing is, nothing ever happened to her. She retired with full federal benefits. That's the thing that irks a lot of Americans. When are they ever going to pay a penalty for what they did?
Bob Knight with us here today on Crosstalk. We're going to open our phone lines. Our number 800-733-9829. Your questions, your comments, 800-733-9829. We'll be back in 1 minute. You're listening to Crosstalk.
For over 200 years, the American judicial system has upheld a standard so strong that a person's very life can be ended based on this level of confidence. A verdict supported by evidence that is beyond a reasonable doubt. Did you know there is evidence demonstrated beyond a reasonable doubt that we have a creator? Most are unaware of it because it has been censored from textbooks. Now, you can have this information at your fingertips. In the beautifully illustrated hardcover book, Have You Considered? Evidence Beyond a Reasonable Doubt, Bruce Malone and Julie Von Vett provide a series of unique devotions presenting evidence for every day of the year that points to the Creator. It's written in an easy-to-read format so that young and old can learn. Have You Considered is available for a donation of $18 or more from VCY. Call 1-800-729-9829.
Robert Knight is our guest on Crosstalk today. We're talking about Russiagate. The collusion hoax. It's been revealed through declassified documents now by our Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, and it's like the temperature is heating up right now. The water is beginning to boil, and certainly there are a number of individuals to be implicated through this, whether it be that of the former President Barack Obama, the former CIA Director John Brennan, former FBI Chief James Comey, James Clapper, Director of National Intelligence, and others. Our phone number here is 800-733-9829. Friends, you have a sheet of paper handy, a pen or a pencil? I'm going to share some information with you here momentarily, but Bob, you write a weekly column. And actually, this week, a powerful topic, and as a matter of fact, it was one we considered for Crosstalk as well, but this was really rising to the surface, our topic today. But you wrote an article this week, how witchcraft is targeting the young and credulous, and you really revealed some alarming information.
Well, I did. I was surprised at the extent of this stuff, and what triggered it was a couple articles in the Washington Post, actually, and I write for the Washington Times. But the Washington Post had two articles of interest. One was basically a promotion of witchcraft. A woman wrote a very complimentary article about how you can buy spells online for $10 or $15 and put a hex on people. And I thought, well, that's cute, but it's so wrong and it's so anti-Christian. But then they carried a news story saying, hey, witchcraft is very big, especially in young girls and young women. And these witchcraft sites where they sell spells have 30 billion views now online. And 2 million of the sites have hashtags witch or witchcraft. And I'm thinking, this is below the surface. Parents need to know about this because these girls are going online, and if they're upset at a boyfriend dropping them or they're mad at a boss, they're putting spells on them. And they think this is harmless, but it's not.
Friends, Bob writes a column every week, and you can receive them. You're going to be writing on this issue here as well, are you not?
I will. That's the current column, and it's going to be about the whole idea of conspiracy theory and how the term conspiracy is used to shut down inquiry more often than not.
And friends, to receive these, all you need to do is send an email. I'm going to give you an email address, and in the subject line, you're just going to write "Sign me up," and these come complimentary. They will come to your inbox, and Bob has some insightful information week after week after week on different relevant topics that are being that we're facing in our culture. Send an email to this email address, Robert Knight, and that's spelled with a K, Robert Knight, the number 4, @gmail.com. Robert Knight 4 @gmail.com, and in the subject line, just put "Sign me up," and he will automatically get you signed up to receive these emails on a weekly basis. He'll be writing on this matter of conspiracies coming up very soon, but just send an email, Robert Knight, again, Knight has a K, Knight, Robert Knight, the number 4, @gmail.com, and just put in the subject line, "Sign me up." That's all you need to do, and you'll be signed up to receive his weekly emails. You can read that column we just talked about, his books also, his website, roberthknight.com. roberthknight.com. Let's go to the phone lines. They are packed. We're going to begin with Greg in Bloomington, Illinois. Greg, you're on the air.
Thank you, Jim. Hey, Bob, what about the Trump effect? We've seen this administration have a lot more of a no-nonsense approach. I mean, the border's closed. There are lots of people, illegal immigrants getting arrested. There are many people getting fired. It just seems like this administration is pushing the envelope quite a bit more. So I'll take your answer off the air, but I think the Trump effect needs to be taken.
Okay, we're kind of losing you. You must be on the speakerphone, Greg. It's hard to pick up all your words there. But
yeah. Was there a question there?
Right. What do you think
more
about
of an observation?
What do you think about Trump seems to push the envelope a lot.
Okay.
And doesn't
goodness, yes.
Get away.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'm like a lot of people. I'm sometimes I cringe at his style, his confrontative style, the tweets, the evidence of a very thin skin because he gets criticized and he fights right back. On the other hand, he's accomplishing amazing things, securing the border, renewing our energy industries, coming up with these incredible deals with other countries about imports. And I mean, just he's scoring victory after victory. And I'm one of these people who say, look, you don't have to approve of his personal style, but you got to give the guy credit. He's a fighter. He's delivering his promises, unlike most presidents. And I think he deserves a lot of support.
Pam is calling from Inglewood, Florida. Pam, you're on the air.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Snyder, for your show. I get a lot of valuable information. My question is, now that all this attention is directed to Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, ask them where Osama bin Laden has been hidden since they were in office and supposedly he was assassinated.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, I don't. As far as I know, he was assassinated. I haven't heard this idea that they've somehow spirited him away somewhere. I've heard that said about Jeffrey Epstein as well, that, they manufactured the whole thing and he's in the witness protection program somewhere. Who knows? I think as far as Osama bin Laden, there are so many people involved, with the Navy SEALs that went in and all them. I mean, to say that they were all lying to us, I find that hard to believe. The Epstein thing is a little more easy to believe, or at least the idea that his death wasn't merely a suicide. It looks like at the least they helped him along by disabling the cameras for a full minute, ignoring the suicide protocol he was supposed to be under. It just doesn't pass the straight face test. So I think he either killed him, maybe he killed himself, but he might have had some help. But who can prove that?
Right. Thank you, Pam.
I'll leave it at that.
Let's go to Merle in Tennessee. Merle, you're on the air.
Yeah, Jim. We kept hearing no one is above the law over and over and over. So, we just need to hold the feet to the fire. I think this was worse than treason. This was a coup attempt, upsetting the will of the American people. Treason was more like Austin calling China and saying, hey, we'll give you a heads up if Trump's going to do something militarily. Mm-hmm. That's more like a treason thing. Chuck Colson, G. Gordon Liddy, during that thing where they broke into the Watergate, they go to prison. They find Jesus in prison. So listen, we may be doing them a favor. Let's put them in jail, put them in prison, and they may get saved in prison, because it doesn't look like it's going to happen outside of prison. But we need to pray that we have the right people in place to do what needs done.
Thank you, Merle. Very interesting.
Well, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
I think he's spot on.
We have seen that over and over. I mean, we could hear a barrage of clips from Nancy Pelosi to Hakeem Jeffries and others. Adam Schiff, another, yes. Chuck Schumer. No one is above the law, and I have not been hearing that mantra of recent.
Yeah. Well, they've got so much has come out about them abusing the power of office that Adam Schiff is a proven liar. He committed perjury. I think they ought to charge Adam Schiff. He's now a senator from California.
Right.
He probably thinks that will shield him, but I hope it doesn't. I hope the Justice Department looks seriously at what he said and did during the whole Russian collusion hoax and bring charges if they're valid.
Not only that, but some questions regarding his residency as well, in what state and so forth. That's another big issue going on for him.
Yes, he's claiming primary residence both in California and in D.C.
Right.
So you can't do that.
Let's go to Bob in Northeast Maryland. Bob, you're on the air.
Guys, you are such hypocrites when it comes to presidents. You have no problems whatsoever with what Trump does and everything he does, but you have a problem with what Obama did. Now, you can thank our partisan Supreme Court, who has now given the president full immunity over everything. So let's just drop the Obama thing, because now the president has full immunity. So that should be dropped. As far as everything else is concerned, you see what type of people follow the program when they think Osama bin Laden is being hidden somewhere. So, guys, I'm just asking you to please keep it on the real and stop following this mighty Christ person that you think Trump is and putting him up on the pedestal because it just makes you look bad.
Okay, well, thank you, Bob, for your thoughts on that. Just let me say that we have called out President Trump. There are many things that he has done that we have taken to task as well. And certainly the issue here is the mantra that we kept hearing from the Democratic side: nobody is above the law, nobody's above the law, nobody's above the law, referring to President Trump. They will not say that about Barack Obama. Bob, any comments there?
Yeah, I'm a little surprised, and maybe he didn't hear the earlier part of the program a few minutes ago, and we made it clear that I personally find President Trump's style off-putting at times, and I cringe at some of his quick responses. But I'm more interested in the policies and what he has brought about. And it's not a blind faith in Trump. Mm-hmm. It's just, let's look at the evidence. Right. Let's talk about what's really happening. But he seems as if he's consumed with hatred of Trump, and he's seriously mischaracterizing, I think, our views, Jim.
Bob, thank you for your call. Mark is next, Monroe, Wisconsin. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm kind of spinning off the nobody's above the law thing either. For all that time, the Democrats were running before 2024, conjured up numerous kangaroo courts against Trump, and technically they convicted him. Now, as far as Bob goes, I don't know what movie that guy was watching, but it seems like a hands-off Obama policy as far as I'm concerned. Mm-hmm. My main point is I think truth might prevail, but not justice. I'm very skeptical. I think the deep state has an upper hand in this whole thing ultimately. And again, making another comment about Obama, it seemed like his following kind of put him on a pedestal like Herod, more of a god than of a man. Yeah. So that's my comment on that whole thing.
Thank you, Mark. And let me just say, too, I mean, as Bob had called from Maryland there, and he said that, come on, guys, you're talking about, Osama bin Laden not being dead and so forth. That's not us who said that. It's a caller just like himself who called in with that allegation there. But any response here to Mark's call there, Bob?
Well, I agree with Mark, and I think Bob was unfair to us, Jim. Mm-hmm. And I think he's drinking the Kool-Aid that says, "Oh well, we Obama was a great president." He didn't say that, but he was saying leave him alone. And by the way, that Supreme Court ruling, as I said, applies to all presidents, right, past and current,
including President Obama.
It covers Obama.
Yeah. Okay, Bob Knight is with us today. Friends, we're going to take a quick break and come back to more of your phone calls. Our number is 800-733-9829. And again, to get Bob's columns, just send an email to robertknight4, the number 4, robertknight4@gmail.com, and just say, sign me up. That's robertknight4@gmail.com. And you put in that subject line, sign me up, and you'll get his weekly columns and be informed on a number of matters that are taking place presently in our country and in society as a whole. We'll be back in 1 minute. You're listening to Crosstalk on VCY America.
For the Worldview Report, I'm Brandon House. Our website's worldviewtube.com. Recently, perhaps you heard the headline, Mike Huckabee, the U.S. ambassador to Israel, put out a letter stating that he is going to reciprocate with restrictions on visas for Jews coming to America if the harassment of evangelicals by the visa department in Israel doesn't end. What? This seemed very odd. So we asked our reporter on the ground in Israel this week, Aaron, about it. And he said, oh, yes, this has been a problem going on for years. There are many Orthodox inside our interior ministry that are specifically targeting evangelicals and even Messianic Jews that want to come and live permanently in Israel. You see, folks, what this is a group, a small group, that do indeed go very hard after Christians. So we need to pray for them. But also, don't let this news story be used by people for anti-Semitism. Explain it's a specific group of people, not all Jews.
This is Crosstalk on VCY America. Robert Knight is with us today, and just a moment ago we gave out his email address. And Bob, we want to point out the columns that you're writing, that you write for the Washington Times, and then you send them out to folks afterwards. Those are absolutely free. There's no charge for this, correct?
No, not a bit. I just send them to an email list I have, and just you get them every Monday morning, and no charge. I won't spam anybody.
Yeah,
I don't like to be spammed myself.
Right. I've been getting them a long time, and I don't get spam. I don't get junk from Bob Knight. And so, friends, again, you can just send an email to Robert Knight4, and Knight is spelled with a K, K-N-I-G-H-T, robertknight4@gmail.com. Just put "sign me up" in the subject line. We've got Ron calling from Tri-Cities, Washington. Ron, you're on the air.
Yes. What I'm curious about, how come this is just being revealed in the second Trump administration? What was going on in the first Trump administration that this wasn't ferreted out then?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ron.
That's a great question. Maybe it's a matter of will. We've got Tulsi Gabbard, who's a fighter, and maybe she's insisted on bringing it out. Or maybe President Trump himself said, they went after me with both barrels. They tried to take me off the ballot in Maine and Colorado. They impeached me twice. They had me in federal court in 4 jurisdictions. I mean, this was a full-blown, all-out attempt to crush his chances to be president again. And so he's taken off the gloves. He said, well, okay, I'm going to expose the very people behind all this kind of stuff. I think that's what's happening.
We've got Brad in West Dallas, Wisconsin, calling. Brad, you're on the air.
Oh, Brother Jim, I thought I heard someone say that they don't want to go after Hillary because they don't want to go after a former First Lady. Well, they didn't have trouble going after a sitting president, and the same guy was a former president after that, and they went after him.
Yep.
And it's kind of a double standard going on there. Yeah. And I'll tell you something else. If the Republicans finally can work up the guts to follow through on this, I wonder if we're going to hear Obama say, hey, you can't go after me for this because I'm not a U.S. citizen, so I can't be a traitor. That's an interesting thought.
Yeah. Thank you, Brad.
Well, I don't think it'll come to that. So that'll be a moot point. Whatever you think about Obama's origins. I remember when it was questioned whether he really was born in Hawaii, and there was all kinds of interesting evidence, like an apparently altered birth certificate. But I mean, we're not here to talk about that. But what I remember most distinctly was anybody even asking questions about it was quickly dismissed as a conspiracy theorist and a nutcase. And don't look over there. And I thought, they protest a little too much.
Yeah.
That there could be some odd things. They covered up his records at Occidental College, and apparently he may have been on a foreign scholarship there, which tells me there may be more to this. But we don't have to go down that road. I mean, that's water under the bridge.
Steve is our next caller. Steve, you're on the air.
Oh, hello. How are you?
Doing fine, thank you.
Yes. I was going to comment on one of the other callers as to how Trump is responding to this and exhibiting some sort of malice or revenge. But it's to me, it's just an overflow. I mean, after listening to your guests, it's just an overflow of all the mess that they really tried to put out at Trump, and they really did. They really did try to stop him from being reelected. They did everything they could do. But my thing with Obama is the fact that I've never thought, and I'm about your age, I've never thought that he was a figurehead. I think that he was just a face of the left, and he did some very lefty things during his administration. And he really didn't do nothing. I'm a black American. I don't see him doing anything for us, or did anything for us, or anything like that. All right, and I'll just leave that go right now. But I mean, it's just that it's a farce what they're doing because he's not. I mean, it's a little too late for a whole lot of this stuff, and the enemy is the left. It's not Obama. He was just a face as far as I was concerned.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm done with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate your call and thanks for listening. Bob, just saying, just a figurehead, and I guess, bring in what's known as the deep state. Was he a figurehead for the deep state or very much a part of the deep state?
Well, it could be both.
Mm-hmm.
I think he certainly is an ideologue who clearly believes in that America needs to be fundamentally transformed. He said that when he got the nomination the first time around in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at his writings and his autobiography, The Audacity of Hope, he was a key figure in his upbringing was a Communist Party member, Frank. Well, we don't have to go back there, but there's evidence
but again,
that
just look at
really is fundamentally hostile to American liberty.
You look at the information released by Tulsi Gabbard, and again, at the president's direction, we're doing this. So that very well speaks to that. Let's get Eddie in from Kentucky. Eddie, you're on the air.
Thank you for taking my call, Jim. I'll be quick and brief. There is a double standard, and there are some that are above the law. President Trump contested Barack Obama's birth certificate, and on the birth certificate that Obama produced, it had his father's nativity as Kenya. Now, Barack Obama was born in 1961. Kenya did not become a country till 1968. I'd like someone to explain that to me.
Yeah, and tell you what, we don't want to rehash the birth certificate issue here at this point, but I thank you for raising the issue but I would concur that there has been a double standard here in all of this. Bob, we're down to our final quarter minute. Your final thought here.
Yeah, in fact, that's what we're looking at, a huge double standard, especially since 2015, where anybody questioning any number of things from the 2020 election to the COVID lockdowns and mandates to the Hillary Clinton server to the Hunter Biden laptop. We're all accused of being conspiracy theorists. And, it's a powerful charge. Ridicule is very powerful.
We're going to have to leave it there. We got to leave it there. We're out of time. Bob Knight with us today. RobertKnight4@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to Crosstalk via satellite and the internet from VCY America. Views expressed may or may not be those of this station. For a CD of today's program, send a donation of $6 or more to VCY Tape Ministry, 3434 West Kilbourne Avenue, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53208, or download by RSS or podcast from crosstalkamerica.com. And join us again for Crosstalk.